Are you not entertained will be the name of this podcast for very obvious reasons. Tottenham once again get 4 goals past their opponents. I think we must have done that more in the space of a week this season than we did in the whole of last season. Someone go check those stats. But it was an emphatic win with a nervy end in classic Tottenham style, wasn't it, guys? We'll be going over that, but also the crazy comms that seem to be going around from Carragher and his friends in the studio, trying to somehow take the shine off that brilliant win that we had, which progresses us into an exciting stage of the competition, but we can't get our luck on the draw, can we, guys? And we'll also go over Ange's press conference. There was lots to unpack there, and also the injuries and the state of the squad as we approach January. And in perfect timing, we have with us today Johnny. How are you, Johnny?
Cracking, mate. Cracking. Good to see you all.
Good to see you too. We have Deej. How are you, Deej?
Doing good. I was doing great yesterday, and then I was doing terribly, and then I was doing fantastically, and then I was doing okay, and then I was doing great again. So I've aged like 15 years since yesterday, but you know, what else can you expect?
30 more and you'll get to the average age of this pod. And we have Stu over in Burnley, of all places. How are you, Stu?
I'm very good. Just down the road from the Manx, who are crying still after last night, so absolutely loving it.
Good to hear. And Si, the only Tottenham fan in Basel, how are you?
Yeah, I was a little bit outnumbered last night, mate. Yeah, but I'm pretty good, mate. I'm pretty good, yeah.
Good. Boys, it was a game that felt like we were cruising, but should we focus on the positives and why it looked like we were cruising in that game to start with? I'll put it out to the floor. Who wants to kick off? What stood out for you in that game, guys? Do you have a particular player that stood out? Was it Ange's tactic? Go on, Stu.
I'd like to start, as I missed a few, and I want to take my moment of glory to shout out the wonderful, the amazing, the versatile,
on.
I've just muted him. I've just muted him. I can't have him say it. I've muted him. He can't say it. He's okay. There you go, Stu. I'll mute you. Go on. Let me have it.
I mean, what an absolute star that this boy is. I mean, fantastic. He did it on the right side. He's done it on the left side. I mean, clearly there were some issues behind the scenes that I don't think we'll probably ever understand or find out what they were. But it appears that he's come out the tunnel, and he is, the famous phrase, it's like a new signing. But it's just exactly what we need this time of year. So hopefully he kicks on, and we can actually start rotating fullbacks on a regular basis.
Yeah, he's absolutely pivotal at this point in the season, and he's surely going to be starting on the weekend. You'd imagine. Si, did you have a particular man of the match in that game apart from Jed? He had a fantastic performance, but there were lots of good ones.
I think Jed stood out, but I was really pleased for Solanke getting his double and just worked so hard for the team. I mean, we notice him so much when he's missing, right? And I thought he had a great game. There were plenty that can hold their heads up for yesterday, and that 4-3 scoreline just does not tell the story of the game, does it? I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, 3-0 we're cruising, and we'll go into that a little bit more. But for me, I think for me, Spence is the story. But Solanke had a great game, and what a great signing he's been for us.
Yeah. He has been. He's been fantastic. And it's not all about the goals with him either, is it? It's just what he brings to the team. A little concern, he did have he was nursing an injury, and there was a footnote in one of the Spurs official articles on the Tottenham website that said he was one of our absentees at the moment. So people are hoping they meant Richarlison in that. And Si, you've done your magic trick again, mate. Good for you.
All I did was scratch my arm. This bleeding...
And Deej, you if you can hold back your laughter, you can't use Jed Spence because you're all humiliating me. Who else was stand out for you in that game?
I think that for the first 70 minutes, I think that the entire team was playing so well. I'd like to give I'm sure people have seen the shout-outs across social media for him, but I'll go ahead and echo it. I think Archie Gray, playing in his third position so far, has been... I saw someone... Sorry if you can hear my dogs in the background. Oh my God, you might have to go to somebody else.
You go on, Johnny. You take over from Deej there.
Yeah.
Who was your man of the match performance? Archie Gray was obviously he's a fantastic centre back, central midfielder, and right back. But anyone else?
I guess other than the ones that have already been mentioned. I mean, I think that Basuma was pretty impressive as well. Actually, Basuma and Sarr. I mean, it's just nice to see that you've got the performances that you have, the consistency, and like I think just in terms of like the blocks and the tackles that he was making, it's not the pretty stuff, but it was really important, and I thought they were through the game. I was in the pub, so I was maybe not watching it as closely as I usually would, to be honest with you. But like it looked to me that they were like, you know, especially Sarr, because I mean he's just like improving week on week, and you just sort of wonder what he can eventually, what level he can eventually reach. But yeah, it was really nice considering like that bench. When you look at the lineup and you see the bench, and think, oh my god, like it's absolutely mental right now. And obviously the games are not slowing down. So to come through, hopefully with if Solanke's okay is the main thing. But what game? It was a crazy game and lots of good performances. Spence obviously being the big story, I suppose. Yeah.
And Deej, we'll let you finish your comms if your dog's quieting down.
They have, fortunately. But yeah, I mean, I think this was probably, for me, one of Dragison's better games for us too. I think he did a really good job, barring a few mistakes, which are bound to happen from a backup center back. But I think he did a really good job at snuffing out the balls over the top to Højlund. I mean, Højlund was essentially completely ineffective today or yesterday, I guess, and that is something that I was a little bit worried about because we've had our issues with playing a high line with Dragison and Gray because they're not. I mean, you're just not Van de Ven and Romero. Like they're both wonderful in their own right, but they're not Van de Ven and Romero, who are like, for my money, two of the best center backs in the Prem when they're healthy and plugged into the team, if you will. But yeah, I think everyone had a really good performance. Happy for Solanke. Hope he can kick on from that. I also do think that having Spence, someone who, like I said last time, is one of like the few players who I feel comfortable dribbling out of our defense. He's also someone I feel comfortable dribbling and, you know, putting a ball in anywhere on the pitch, really, which I think has given Son license to not always be the overlap, and sometimes, because he always has to be the underlap. I think that allowing Son to be the one to cut inside sometimes has been good for him. It's put him in some more dangerous positions. Obviously, he didn't put any of those away. Today, he put the one from the corner away, but you know, sometimes that just happens when you're that good, I guess. But yeah, like if you put Son in those positions on like the edge of the 18 where he just pushes the ball onto his right and then curls it in, sometimes he's going to send that over the bar a couple feet wide. But we've seen Son play enough to know that you're going to get that ball go into the top corner every once in a while, and at a higher rate than I think anyone else in that position would be, in my opinion. So it's good to see him being able to get in those positions again.
Just as I was watching this all flow this game, guys, thinking, and my confidence started to get very high. I drafted a message in our WhatsApp group, and it was to deliberately kind of cause some debate, and it was, should Forster hold his spot when Vicario comes back? And just before I hit send, Forster seemed to turn into a drunken sailor. Everything seemed to just fall apart, and it was like he had been so brilliant in his previous 3 or 4 games for us. He threw all his mistakes into 20-minute spell, didn't he? I mean, Johnny, you're nodding. What was going through your mind when all that kicked off?
It's the same old tale we talked about last week when we were talking about the previous with the Southampton game and how many goals you need before you can start getting relaxed. And a good friend from work, Sports United, and we knew one of us would be crowing over the other today at work, and like she sent the message to me when we went 3-0 up, and I was about to send the message thinking that would be safe, like probably most of us did. And then of course the other day I said I think it's when you get 4, and maybe I was right, because it was just crazy, wasn't it? It just seemed to be we were an easy streak, completely in control of the game. They weren't really threatening. I mean, I don't think maybe there was 1 or 2 saves that Forster had to make. He did have to make a good save from Xerxes. I think that was just before they got their goal. But yeah, it was at the end of the day, we give away 2 goals and we can still win. That says quite a lot, I think, about the way that we're playing and the fact that we're still able to score the goals. It is the whole mantra or philosophy of what Ange does is kind of been vindicated, you could say, from our point of view. Anyway, we can maybe say that the mainstream media and certain people who have their own theories, who like to broadcast themselves, they have another angle on things. But I think that it's unfortunate for Forster. You gotta stand by him. He's definitely gonna be remaining in between the posts, presumably until Vic comes back, and there's no reason for an experienced goalkeeper like that. He deserves to be supported because, like we all say, if somebody else makes a mistake somewhere else on the pitch, it's not something that coming out with all the cliches. But it's the goalkeeper is the one that really is in the full glare of the spotlight whenever they make a mistake. And there were just 2 horrendous mistakes. It was interesting because I think it was Deej was saying earlier or Si about Archie Gray, because didn't he say at the end he acknowledged that it was actually his pass that was more to blame than Forster for this second one.
First maturity from an 18-year-old.
So it's a team game. You got to get behind the keeper, and we were still able to win. So ultimately, especially in the knockout game, it doesn't really matter, does it? Hopefully he'll still have the confidence. I guess with the keeper's confidence, isn't it? And just hopefully, he can negotiate the first few passbacks, and
it definitely those moments though. And Stu, I'll come to you next, Si. That's why I'm conscious. I owe you a question here, Stu. That whole moment of unfortunate events with Forster that brought Man United back in the game seemed to give the media and everyone a perception that Man United had played well, and this was a close game, but it was completely one-sided, wasn't it?
I mean, I wouldn't say that it was completely one-sided. It's not like we were creating chance after chance, but they weren't creating chance after chance either. But I agree. Like, as soon as they got one, you could hear Neville crowing, you always knew we were going to come back, and now they're going to be on the ropes. And you're like, wind your neck in. What are you talking about? We've gifted you first goal, and then we gifted you the second, and after that, what did you do? And I also thought that the comments about, they made some comment to Vicario because, obviously the camera panned to him when Fraser made the mistakes. Like, oh, I don't know what he's talking about because he's made loads of errors as well. I'm like, what errors has he made? Unless you're referring to the corners where you then made a huge fuss because we slightly brushed the other hand of your goalkeeper and wanted that goal disallowed. I mean, where's your consistency?
What do you think's driving it, Si? Because the narrative's it's getting stronger, not weaker. The more we do statistically prove that we're not a plan A only, surely the goalkeeper having a calamity has nothing to do with high line pressing football. You could actually argue he just hoofs it every time.
It's baffling, mate. It really is. I mean, I don't know why that narrative is there amongst those 3 that were commentating on it last night, those pundits in inverted commas. But listen, Fraser had a bad day at the office yesterday. The two cock-ups. He's been brilliant since he's come in for Vic. And that was the whole point. Maybe it's the podcast curse that we put on him on the last run when we were saying, how comfortable we were with him in between the sticks. But he's been fantastic. And there's, you allowed a bad day at the office. And it wasn't totally his fault. I think the first one was more his fault than... Well, no, the second one was maybe more his fault than the first one. But listen, it is what it is. We've scored 9... How many goals have we scored? We've scored 13 goals in 4 games. We're scoring goals and, for fun. And that's with 10. That's with 10. By the way, 10. If it was in the scoreline here on the video printer, it'd be 10 brackets 10 first team squad players out of action. It's like there is no team in the Premier League that would get anywhere near doing what we're doing with 10 first teamers out. And so I don't know where that narrative's coming from and why it's being driven by the Redknapps and the Carragers of this world. I wonder whether they just, I don't know, whether they just don't get Ange, they don't get his tactics, they don't get his philosophy. And yeah, but I don't know what it is, but it's baffling, mate, honestly.
Yeah. It's like they think, so you're winning games playing this way with a depleted squad, but you would be, the smart thing to do would be just to throw 11 men behind the ball, try
and
get a goal from a long ball from Forster and hold it out.
And it's
as if
this
that's
craziness as well
remotely
around,
going to be a better option.
It's the craziness around, there's this narrative that we're really flaky at the back as well, but we're not.
No,
we're not. We've not lost a game this season by the games that we've lost, not by more than one goal.
Not by more than one goal. And with the fourth best defence in the league,
and we're fourth best defence in the league. And we're we're the best attack in the league. I mean, us and Chelsea flip-flopping, but it's just nonsense. It just doesn't stand up. But it looks, we can look a bit flaky. We can look like we're giving chances away. We look open down the flanks. We do. That's one of the downsides of the system. And if you're going to attack us, that's where you do attack us. And those cross-field balls, we can look a bit suspect at times. So maybe it's more the eye test rather than the data test that people are focusing on.
I just think it's just ignorance on our behalf. Also, the fact that Carragher was basically saying the players should mutiny and ignore the instructions from the manager and just do opposite and take hold of the game. I'm like, what are you talking about?
This isn't, bizarre saying that the right thing to do would be to ignore the manager and go against. But guys, we need to jump into our questions from our members. We don't have time for those.
Can I say one more thing before we? Okay, I just I don't know. I'm so tired of this narrative that it's clearly coming from. I think you're right, Stu. I think it's just ignorance. I think it's people not watching games and then seeing results and saying, "Oh yeah, this matches with what I think, so I'm not going to change how I think about it at all." If you look at our defense, yes, there is one. It's the same thing with we have a corner issue, which we've conceded 4 goals from this season from set pieces and corners. It's not been a significant amount. It hasn't been anything to worry about this season, but we get that. I'm sure we'll hear about it next time we concede from a corner, in whether it be against Liverpool or whether it be in March. We'll still, no matter when it happens, it'll still be an issue because it was an issue last season and we're not updating our issues. We are the back post balls we are still, I think, a little bit weak on. That's continued to be an issue. And that's something I would hope would be looked into being fixed, but that is our one defensive weakness. That doesn't mean we have a weak defensive team. And because we've decided that Tottenham's a weak defensive team, that gets used as an example for why Tottenham are weak defensively, not every other and also I think another reason why we're weak defensively is because of our high line. We snuff out a lot of attacks before they get to the point where someone can make a goal line clearance, a diving save, whatever. That happened actually a lot against United. If there were a few times where we didn't cover that back post ball or the ball to the top of the box and Eriksen was there. I think Archie Gray and Basuma had a couple of balls that they cleared out, and I'm sure that but and then you look at that, and as a pundit, I'm sure if you're just watching the highlight package, you're yes, their defense is improving, but I would say that that's worse than what happens normally, which is it doesn't become a highlight because we didn't let them get to the point where they're shooting the ball at all. So I think part of it is the eye test that sometimes we do concede goals that are really easy to score. But sometimes it's that you don't even, if you're just watching games on highlights or you're a condensed game, essentially, if you're a pundit who has to do that sometimes because you have to watch all the games of all the teams to be able to speak knowledgeably about all of them. If you're watching that, you're not seeing Tottenham prevent the teams from getting in the positions that create the highlights. So you're of course, you only see Tottenham doesn't do a lot of goal line clearances, is what I'm trying to say, or defending on their own box. So a lot of the time we have a higher percentage, I think, of box entry to I would say easy goals than your average team. So I would say that would probably be something that would they could also contribute to the narrative that
I
is
thought you
continuing
you
to
needed to
occur.
finish that with "Are you not entertained?" You're getting very passionate there, Deej. But no, a valiant and valid defence of it all. But we do need to jump in, and the questions will continue this topic, right? Because most of the questions I've had are kind of around this. I think it's what's been the most triggering point of supporting Spurs lately is there's zero acknowledgement for the things we do well. It always has to be caveated. Yeah, but there was a silly mistake over there, so it doesn't count. Let's ignore the fact Spurs are in the semi-final of a competition at the moment, and just focus on all the negatives. So question from Rick says, I'm nervous about the Liverpool match. How do you think we can respond to our high energy fragilities in the back third against much stronger? So basically, with all the injuries, how are we going to handle this Liverpool game, guys? It's quickly around the corner, and they won't be rotating anyone for a Premier League game against us on the weekend. Is it just... I don't think we can, Rick. We just have to go in with the only players we got fit and just do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a backup. We don't have a backup tactic anyway, so we'll just probably do the same thing, and nothing will change. Obviously, I think that's how we play, right? I don't watch the games. I just listen to people talk about them. But I mean, like, we beat Liverpool like last season with Klopp, and you can argue whether or not that was deserved. But at the end of the day, if you go back and look at the scoreline, it says a 2 next to Tottenham and a 1 next to Liverpool. So for me and for the Premier League, that's a win. So we beat Liverpool last season, and I don't know. I think that in general, I think we kind of do better against teams that are more aggressive. We saw that against City, where we beat them 4-0. We saw that against Man United earlier in the season. Man United, even I'm going to count this as a game we did well because we gave away 2 goals for free, but we put 4 past them. We put 3 past United when we played them earlier in the season. We tend to do better against teams that want to attack us. So I'm not saying we're going to win by any stretch of the imagination. I think Liverpool have been the best team in the league this season. That doesn't mean, but I don't think that this is like a guaranteed loss by any stretch. I think that we've given our backup backline enough game time to start to become comfortable playing as a unit, which is, I think, the most important part of a backline. Having Archie Gray and Dragusin be comfortable next to each other is really important. And I think that was pretty clearly not there after like Davies went out. But I think that Gray he's learning his 3rd new position, and I think he's settling in there. I think Dragusin is continuing to improve and like figure out how he fits in this system. So I think that our backline is only going to get better as they play together more. So I think that this is not that I'm expecting a win, but I'm expecting a good game.
Yeah, you'd take a point, wouldn't you, at this stage? I think for sure. Go on,
I think the very fact that Reggie got minutes yesterday shows how stretched and down to the bare bones we are.
Yeah. There was a funny caption on those picture, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There's a question from Sean, the Gooner Slayer,
Go on, Sean.
the legend who is one of our members. With the squad being as thin as it is, do you think the next 3 games we go for 2 of them and sacrifice the other, pushing to get 6 points rather than try for 9? I see. So we're saying, is it worth rotating and what? I don't think you can ever risk that. Like, we've seen teams try rotate this year in Europe, Aston Villa before playing us, and we just wallop them. They completely wasted 2 games doing that. I don't know if anyone disagrees. Anyone?
Not
I would say it's not who we are.
And you'll never do that.
And it's not who we are, yeah.
Who do we even rotate?
Yeah.
Are you getting a game, Jim?
Am I getting a game? I'm nearly there, aren't I?
Is the doggy going to be available? Do you know?
Sounds like he's just out of fatigue.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see.
So he sounds like he's
Spence. Is he going to be on the left or the right? I mean, Porro.
I think you might see Porro rested with Spence on the right, with Doggy back in that left berth, maybe.
On this topic, Vaz, will Spence get a consistent run now? Well, yeah. Doggy's fatigued, injured, and even if he wasn't, I think he's put in a good shout for. We all agree to him, waxing lyrical about him. He will be playing more minutes.
Is this the last ban of Bentancur? Is he banned for Boxing Day as well?
He misses Liverpool, and that's the last one. Yeah.
So he's back. He's back for.
Pretty sure he's back. Yeah.
Potentially. Okay.
Yeah. There were some questions as well around the ownership and rumours of people looking to buy us and what that means. But as we understand at the moment, the club are just looking to raise equity by selling a minority share to someone. Amanda Staveley, who does that for a living, goes and gets rich people's money, puts it into an asset, and then takes a cut and leaves. So look, all that would happen if that happens is I imagine we'd get some capital up front, same ownership still in charge. It would just accelerate our plans a little bit. You probably see a few assets go up a bit more quickly and a few more players come in, but I wouldn't get overly fixated on that. Spurs run so well. Weirdly, they kind of don't need massive of more money. They could probably allow them to stretch the wage bill to a bit more of a risky ceiling. But
yeah.
yeah,
I also think the only thing that makes a difference is cash injection to help buy
It's probably cash
players,
flow,
or
isn't it?
maybe a window earlier than we were planning on.
yeah. Guys, I know it's only a bit of a shorter one today because a lot of us have pre-commitments on the pod today. But anyone have any final topics or comments to add
I
before we
assume
wrap up?
is this the last one before Sunday, in which case are we going to do a prediction?
Oh yeah, let's do our Liverpool predictions. Go on.
Yeah.
Good point, Johnny. Go on, Johnny.
Okay.
Start with you, mate. Liverpool
I
prediction.
think it's going to be another stupid game with lots of goals. I don't think any of us probably would argue with that. I'm gonna. It's Christmas, right? So we've got to believe in magic. And I've got my Christmas jumper on. It's the last day of term. Had a cracking day with the kids in school today. They're in great form. I won the rap battle in my classroom. I did.
Did
Absolutely
you?
slayed it.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Did
did.
you,
I did.
though?
I beat those 12-year-olds into the ground. And,
Yes,
yeah.
smashed
Oh
them.
yeah, I'll
Dance
tell you.
as well.
No, yeah, I did a dance in my head. I was sitting in my chair, but yeah. So with that in mind, and with that attitude to life, I'm going to go for 3 points. I think we're going to do it. I think we're going to. I'm going to say 3-2 Tottenham.
Our long-time listeners, who remembers the
I
Johnny
know,
of
it used to
old
be
before
morning.
Ange?
What was our morning Myrtle?
You couldn't get him to predict a
I
point.
can't remember what
Let
was
alone
it.
three.
Negative
Bloody
Nelly,
hell.
Negative
Negative
Nelly.
Nelly.
Negative
That's
Nelly.
it.
Oh.
Where's she gone? Where's he gone?
Gone.
Oh,
Ta-da.
go on, Si. What's your prediction, mate?
Well, yeah. So head and heart again, isn't it? Listen, they're a good side, but they've not been on top. They've not been on their best form the last 3 or 4 games. You can get at them. They've conceded a few goals here and there. If Southampton can score 2 against them, I think we can score a few against them. So, listen, I'm going with I'm going positive Polly, not negative Nelly, and I'm going to come out with a 2-1 win for Spurs. 1-1 up until the late 80s, and Solanke pops up with a winner in the 91st minute, maybe. There we go. Come on.
Oof, Deej. What about you, mate?
Well, I mean, I do think that Liverpool have they have cooled off a bit since their blistering run of form, which I mean has meant that they've drawn a few matches essentially. Like they're still I think playing like one of the best teams in the Premier League, which is, I don't know, not as hard as previous seasons in my opinion, because I feel like everyone's kind of been inconsistent this season, especially like I don't know, it's just weird having City playing how City are. It's leaving like a bit of a gap at the top that we're kind of used to, like just chasing someone who wins every game. But with that being said, I do think, like I said earlier, I think we are set up well to play against teams like Liverpool who want to go at you. I think it'll be a fun game. I think we'll definitely concede at least one goal that we'll look back on it and be like, how did we concede this? And I think we'll probably score at least one goal. We'll probably score at least one goal that we're like, how did they concede this? So, I think all things being equal, I think that it'll be 2-2, and then in the 90th minute, Joel Matip will unretire and score another own goal, and we'll win 3-2.
No, I love it. Stu, what do you reckon?
I just hope that Slot, who is basically buttering us up with wonderful comments about Ange and how we're the most entertaining side in the league to watch, I hope it's not kind of really lulling us into a false sense of
We're
security.
privileged to be season ticket holders, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think it's important also with an eye on the cup draw mentally not to get hammered in this game. And I think Ange will have the team fired up. That said, it's Liverpool. I think the referees will want to make sure we don't win to kind of make up for what happened last year. But I refuse to say we're going to lose. So I'm going to go for an exciting, entertaining 2-2 draw. And I just hope that if Liverpool do score, it's Gakpo who scores because I love him.
Right, so some positive predictions there. I'd say I'm always going to go for predicting a win at home, even though I know, it's one of those where if you lost, you would be like, look at the context, the injuries, they're better than us, they're further ahead. Well, they're not even further ahead in the project, actually. They're just a better squad with a better first team, with a very good manager, who are top of the league for a reason, right? So if you don't win when you're missing 10 first team important players, so be it. Look at the bigger context. But I still think we'll get something. I'm going to go for very cocky Liverpool crowd to go 1-0 up and Spurs to come back and win, score 3 goals to go 3-1 up.
Wow.
Liverpool to get a late one back, 3-2, and us be defending for our lives for the last 5 minutes, somehow get through that in a chaotic game. There you go. Right, up the Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.